The Enforcer Command Center, a cold high-tech labyrinth, hummed with the steady pulse of advanced machinery. The dim lighting, usually just a backdrop to the room's cold efficiency, now felt oppressive as the soft glow of holographic displays cast ghostly reflections on the polished metal surfaces. Commander Cade stood at the center, surrounded by her officers, their eyes all fixated on the central display. The command center, typically a model of precision and control, now buzzed with an undercurrent of dread. Holographic screens flickered with streams of data, but no amount of numbers and graphs could mask the glaring failure that hung over Commander Cade like a dark cloud. She stood rigid, her gaze locked onto the central display, where the encrypted files Pemulway had stolen were being decrypted, exposing the full scope of the Enforcer's operations. Secrets that were meant to be buried, now lay bare and in enemy hands. The soft, persistent beep of error alerts punctuated the tense silence, mingling with the low murmur of officers whispering nervously to one another. The quiet, electric buzz of the command center's machinery amplified the sense of impending doom that thickened the air. Cade's fingers drummed a steady, ominous rhythm against the side of the console, her face a mask of barely contained fury as the decrypted data scrolled across the screen. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, acutely aware that their leader's temper was a storm on the brink of eruption.
How the hell did this happen? We had them cornered. This was supposed to be foolproof.
The officer's hand trembled slightly as he gripped the edge of the table, his gaze flickering toward the door as if searching for an escape. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple, and his voice cracked when he finally spoke. They found a hidden exit in the lower levels, Commander. They were resourceful. Cade's stare was unyielding, her lips pressed into a thin line. The air around her seemed to drop in temperature as she regarded the officer, her expression giving nothing away. A flicker of unease crossed his face, but her cold, calculating gaze remained fixed, unblinking, and devoid of emotion.
Resourceful.
She glares at the officer, her voice dropping to a menacing whisper.
They made fools of us, and now they have everything.
The realization hit Cade like a blow. Pemulway and his crew had not only escaped, they had outmaneuvered her at every turn, and worse, they had stolen the encrypted files that revealed the full scope of the Enforcer's plans. Plans that had taken years to build were now compromised in a single night. A sharp, metallic clang echoed through the command center as Cade slammed her fist against the console, the force of her anger reverberating through the room. Just then, the soft hiss of a door opening cut through the tension as a new officer entered, holding a tablet with more bad news. Cade's eyes narrowed, her jaw tightening as she snatched the tablet and quickly scanned the latest reports. Every muscle in her body was taut with tension, her mind already racing with strategies to salvage the crumbling situation.
They think it's over, that they've won.
She pauses, her voice dropping to a menacing whisper.
They're dead wrong. Double the patrols, increase surveillance, find them. Bring them to me alive if you can, but I want their heads if it comes to that.
The officers straightened, the room snapping back to rigid attention as Cade's orders sliced through the air like a blade. Failure was not an option, not now, not ever. Her plans may have faltered, but her resolve had only hardened. Pemulway and his crew had made a powerful enemy, and she would stop at nothing to crush them. The hum of machinery grew louder as the command center shifted into action, the soft footsteps of officers moving swiftly to execute Cade's commands. She turned back to the holographic display, her eyes blazing with a deadly focus. As the data continued to scroll, she tapped a command, bringing up surveillance feeds of the city. Her mind raced ahead, already plotting her next move, as the command center erupted into activity around her. Cade remained the eye of the storm, her gaze locked on the city sprawled out beneath her. She would hunt them down, one by one, and when she found them, there would be no escape. Pemulway had just signed his death warrant, and she would be the one to deliver it. The hideout. A dimly lit underground safe house cluttered with mismatched furniture, flickering screens, and a large table strewn with maps, datapads, and the encrypted files they had just retrieved was thick with tension. The weight of their discovery hung heavily in the air as the team gathered around the table, some sitting, others pacing, their faces etched with concern and determination. The soft hum of computers and machinery filled the background. mingling with the distant drip of water echoing from deep within the hideout. Papers rustled, and the occasional tap on a datapad punctuated the heavy silence as the team reviewed the information before them. The room was tense, each member of the crew wrestling with the implications of what they had uncovered. The enforcers' plan was more sinister than they had imagined, threatening not just them, but the entire city. Now, the question loomed large: should they reveal this knowledge to the public and risk igniting a firestorm, or keep it close to their chest and find a way to use it as leverage? The decision was not an easy one, and the burden of it weighed heavily on their shoulders. Vesper.
We have to tell the public. People need to know what the enforcers are planning. If we keep this to ourselves, we're no better than they are. This could be the spark that finally brings the system down.
Cade's stare was unyielding, her lips pressed into a thin line. The air around her seemed to drop in temperature as she regarded the officer, her expression giving nothing away. A flicker of unease crossed his face, but her cold, calculating gaze remained fixed, unblinking, and devoid of emotion. Jai, pacing, his hands clenched into fists.
But how? Just dumping it online won't cut it. The enforcers control the media. They'll twist it, paint us as terrorists inciting panic. We need a strategy, a way to get the truth out without it getting buried in their lies.
Nix, her eyes darting around the room, gauging the others' reactions.
What if we go underground? Use the networks they can't touch, the pirate radio stations, the dark net. We leak it there, get the word out to the people who will listen and act. It's risky, but it might be our best shot.
Crow, leaning back in his chair, arms crossed.
And what about the fallout? Once this goes public, there's no turning back. The enforcers will come down on us harder than ever. We're talking full-scale war. Are we ready for that?
Pemulway, after a long silence, drawing everyone's attention.
We didn't come this far to keep secrets.
He looks around at his crew, his eyes full of resolve.
The enforcers have kept the people in the dark for too long. It's time we bring this into the light. But we have to be smart about it. We don't just want chaos, we want change.
Vesper.
So how do we do it? What's the plan?
Pemulway.
We go to the heart of the city, hijack their systems, broadcast the truth on every screen, every channel. Let the people see what's really going on. But we don't stop there. We give them hope, a way to fight back. We don't just expose the enforcers, we unite the city against them.
The room fell silent as Pemulway's words sank in. It was a bold plan, dangerous and full of risks, but it was the only way to truly turn the tide. They all understood the dangers, the consequences, but in that moment a shared resolve took hold. They would reveal the truth, not just to bring down the enforcers, but to ignite a revolution. The quiet rustling of movement filled the air as the team began preparing for the mission. Above them, the distant hum of the city was a constant reminder of the world they were about to change. Pemulway turned to the table, pointing to a map of the city's central grid. The team gathered around, leaning in as he outlined the plan in detail. Vesper and Nix pulled up schematics on the screens, identifying key access points for the broadcast, while Jai methodically checked his gear, readying himself for the battle that was fast approaching. Pemulway.
This is it. We strike where it hurts the most, but remember, this isn't just about taking them down, it's about giving the people something to believe in. We can't afford to get this wrong.
With the plan set, the team moved with purpose, each knowing their role, each fully aware of the stakes. The steps they were about to take would change everything, not just for them, but for the entire city. As they prepared, there was no doubt in their minds. The enforcer's reign of control was about to face its greatest challenge yet. Nighttime. The enforcer's central broadcast tower loomed ominously in the heart of the city, a monolithic structure wrapped in layers of high-tech security. Surrounded by a formidable perimeter fence, patrol drones hovered above, while guards were stationed at key points, their presence a constant reminder of the tower's impenetrability. The air was tense, the city's distant hum adding to the sense of anticipation. The faint buzz of surveillance drones circling the tower, merged with the quiet hum of the security grid, an invisible barrier of sensors and cameras ready to detect the slightest breach. Amidst this, the soft rustle of the team's gear was the only sound as they prepared to move, each movement careful and deliberate in the shadow of the towering fortress. Vesper and Crow moved silently through the shadows, slipping past guards and dodging drone surveillance with practiced ease. Vesper, leveraging her expertise in hacking, approached a control panel hidden within a maintenance alcove. Crow stood watch, his eyes scanning the perimeter for any signs of trouble. Vesper quickly connected her portable hacking device, the screen glowing faintly as she began bypassing the security grid. The tension mounted as she raced against time, fully aware that a single mistake could trigger an alarm. Meanwhile, Jai and Nyx descended to the lower levels, intent on creating a diversion. They slipped into the maintenance tunnels beneath the tower, navigating the maze-like corridors until they reached the primary power conduits. Nyx methodically planted small explosives on key junctions, designed to disable the tower's secondary systems and force the enforcers to divert their attention. As she set the charges, Jai kept an ear out for approaching guards, his hand steady on his weapon, ready for anything. Vesper.
Crow, I'm almost in. Just a few more seconds.
Crow, tense, scanning the area.
Make it quick, Vesper. Drones are circling back. Time's running out.
Nyx smirking as she sets the charges.
This'll grab their attention.
Jai checked his watch, his jaw tightening, movements crisp with impatience.
Less than 5 minutes before they notice. Hit them hard, hit them fast, then regroup with Pemulway.
As Vesper's device worked its magic, the security grid flickered before going dark. The tower's defences were temporarily disabled, but the clock was ticking. Deep within the tower, Nyx and Jai's explosives were primed and ready to detonate. The team had cleared the way for Pemulway, but the real challenge still loomed ahead. Vesper urgently.
Grid's down. Move now.
Crow.
Go, go, go.
They slip into the tower just as the drones sweep overhead. Nyx pressing the detonator.
Fire in the hole.
The charges go off with a dull boom. The lights in the lower levels flicker before plunging the area into controlled chaos. Inside the tower, Pemulway and his team split up. While Pemulway headed for the control room on the top floor, Vesper, Crow, Jai and Nyx worked to cover his back, setting distractions throughout the building. The hallways, sleek and cold, gleamed with steel and glass, the constant hum of machinery buzzing in the air. In the distance, alarms began to blare as the enforcers realized something was wrong. The rhythmic beeping of countdown timers grew more frantic, while the team's heavy breathing echoed through the corridors as they sprinted ahead of the enforcer patrols. Pemulway raced through the twisting passageways, his steps precise and swift, dodging patrols as he ascended toward the control room. As he reached the final stretch, an alarm blared to life. The enforcers had triggered a protocol to shut down the entire network and stop the broadcast. Bursting into the control room, Pemulway faced a wall of glowing monitors and control panels, the air thick with tension. Without hesitation, he lunged for the central console, where the shutdown sequence was already in motion. His fingers flew over the controls, every keystroke crucial. Sweat trickled down his forehead as he raced against the ticking clock, each passing second narrowing the window for success. Pemulway, to himself frantic.
Come on. Don't fail me now.
His fingers fly over the keys, the screen flashing with red warnings. Vesper's breathing quickened, her fingers flying over the controls. She leaned closer to the comms unit, eyes darting between screens. Her movements were sharp and decisive, betraying the urgency of the situation.
Pemulway, we've got incoming. You need to move now.
Pemulway, gritting his teeth, focused.
Just a few more seconds. I've almost got it.
The shutdown sequence was dangerously close to completion. Each second weighing heavily on Pemulway as the alarms blared louder. He was so close. If he could just override the system, the broadcast would go through. But the enforcers were closing in, and failure wasn't an option. With a burst of determination, Pemulway slammed his hand down on the control panel. Got it. The shutdown halted, the system rebooting just as the deafening blare of alarms signaled the enforcers breaching the room. The broadcast machinery whirred to life, transmitting their message, even as Pemulway knew time was running out for their escape. The control room, bathed in the harsh glow of red emergency lights, pulsed with the chaotic sounds of approaching enforcers. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city's skyline stretched out, illuminated by the flickering glow of the tower's broadcast antennas. The deep, resonant hum of the broadcast equipment powered up, blending with the pounding footsteps of enforcers and the shrill blare of alarms, heightening the sense of imminent danger. As the enforcers burst through the doors, Pemulway hit the final command, launching the broadcast just as they stormed in. Across the city, encrypted files and a defiant message of resistance flashed on every screen, exposing the enforcers' corruption and lies in brutal, unfiltered detail. For a fleeting moment, the truth was laid bare for all to see. As the broadcast continued, Pemulway faced the enforcers in a desperate close-quarters battle. The control room became a war zone, consoles sparking and screens flickering as the fight raged. Against overwhelming odds, Pemulway fought with the raw determination of someone who knew the city's fate hung in the balance. The enforcer commander's face reddened, veins bulging as he slammed his fist onto the console. Officers around him flinched, his fury palpable in every tense muscle. "Shut it down! Cut the transmission, now!" Pemulway stood firm, eyes steady and unflinching. His posture was relaxed yet defiant, a quiet confidence radiating from him.
It's too late. You've already lost.
The broadcast rippled through the city like a shockwave, flashing across every screen and channel. The enforcers had been exposed, their lies laid bare for all to see. But even as the truth spread, Pemulway knew their fight was far from over. The enforcers were relentless, and they had one final trick, a failsafe that could unravel everything. As the broadcast ended, an unfamiliar sequence of codes flashed across the control panel. The enforcers had triggered a hidden virus, a digital failsafe designed to wipe out every communication line in the city. The realization hit hard. If they didn't stop it, everything they'd fought for would vanish in an instant. The team moved fast, coordinating from different locations within the tower. Vesper hacked frantically into the system, Crow worked to physically disable key nodes, and Jai and Nix held off the advancing enforcers. Tension mounted as the countdown to disaster ticked away. Just as the virus prepared to execute its final command, Pemulway, with Vesper's help, managed to isolate and purge it from the system. The network stabilized, the city's communications saved, but victory came at a price. As reinforcements stormed the tower, the team barely escaped, forced to retreat and regroup for the battle still ahead. Pemulway determined.
This isn't over. We've won this round, but the real fight is just beginning.
The city square was packed with protesters, their chants rising in rhythmic waves, echoing off the towering buildings. The air buzzed with a mix of hope and tension, banners snapping in the breeze, and holographic signs flickering with messages of resistance. The crowd was a sea of faces, citizens from all walks of life, united by their hunger for change. With each passing minute, the chanting grew louder, banners rustled, and the distant hum of drones monitoring the scene from above intensified. Pemulway, Vesper, Jai, Nix and Crow moved silently through the rally, blending into the mass of bodies. Their simple, nondescript clothing and hoods partially obscured their faces, but their eyes stayed sharp, scanning the crowd for allies and watching for any sign of danger. The tension was thick. They knew enforcer spies could be lurking anywhere, tracking their every move. As they weaved through the crowd, Pemulway spotted a small stage at the square's centre, where resistance leaders were beginning to gather. The team's mission was to make contact, but the closer they got, the more uneasy they felt. The crowd's energy was electric, unpredictable, ready to tip into something explosive at any moment. Vesper moved quietly, her eyes darting over the crowd. Her lips barely moved as she leaned in, her gaze never resting in one place for long, every muscle tense and alert.
Too many eyes on us. One wrong move, and this goes bad, fast.
Jai, tense nodding.
This feels wrong, like we're walking into a trap.
Pemulway, calm but firm.
We stick to the plan. Make contact, but stay sharp. Anything can happen.
The rally was a sea of faces, united by a mix of anger and hope. Yet beneath that surface, Pemulway sensed the tension, a storm on the verge of breaking. As they pushed closer to the stage, the feeling intensified, a creeping unease that something was off. Every shadow seemed to harbour a threat, every cheer carried an edge, hinting at the violence ready to erupt. Crow, suddenly eyes narrowing.
We've got eyes on us.
He subtly nods toward a group standing too still, their gaze fixed on the team. Nyx frowned, her jaw set and eyes narrowed. Shadows seemed to deepen around her as she regarded the scene, a hard resolve etched into her expression.
Enforcers, we move now.
The rally's central square was packed with thousands of protesters, the stage alive with speakers, their voices booming over the sound system. The crowd's energy reached a fever pitch, chants growing louder and more intense. Pemulway had just stepped onto the stage, ready to galvanise the resistance. The speaker's voice echoed through the square, punctuated by the distant pop of fireworks, protest signals. Then a sudden sharp click, the sound of explosives being triggered. Before Pemulway could speak, a series of explosions tore through the square, placed with deadly precision to create maximum chaos. The stage shook violently, throwing people to the ground. Smoke and debris choked the air, and the chants of hope were drowned out by screams of terror. In the midst of the panic, the enforcers revealed themselves. Disguised as protesters, they shed their civilian clothes to unveil body armour and weapons. Gunfire erupted as they targeted both the leaders and Pemulway's team, transforming the peaceful rally into a battlefield. Pemulway and his crew sprang into action. Vesper pulled out her concealed weapon, firing back at the enforcers, while Jai and Nyx moved to shield the fleeing civilians. Crow worked swiftly to get the remaining resistance leaders to safety, dodging bullets and debris as chaos consumed the square. Vesper cupped her hands around her mouth, eyes wide as she pushed through the frantic crowd. Her expression was fierce, urgency etched in every line of her face as she strained to be heard above the din.
It's a trap. We need to get these people out. Now.
Jai dropped to one knee, eyes locked on his target. His jaw was clenched, every shot precise and controlled. Shell casings clattered to the ground around him as he moved with purpose, unflinching amidst the gunfire.
We're pinned. They're everywhere.
Pemulway gritting his teeth, determined.
No one gets left behind. Get the leaders out. I'll cover you.
The rally had descended into a nightmare. Explosions ripped through the crowd, turning hope into horror in an instant. Pemulway felt the searing heat of the blasts, the sting of debris cutting into his skin. But there was no time to think, only to act. The enforcers had revealed themselves, and now the team had to fight their way out, all while protecting the innocent lives trapped in the deadly crossfire. The enforcer commander smirked, leaning toward the microphone. His eyes gleamed with smug satisfaction as he pressed the button, pausing just long enough to savour the tension. You really thought you could win? This is what defiance gets you. Surrender now, and maybe we'll let you live. Pemulway's expression hardened, his eyes narrowing. With a sharp nod, he gestured forward, his hand movements quick and precise, leaving no room for doubt.
We're not finished.
His team prepares for a desperate fight. The streets around the rally square were chaos. Smoke billowing into the sky, the sharp crack of gunfire, and the wail of sirens filling the air. Protesters surged through the streets in a frantic rush, turning the city into a maze of obstacles as Pemulway and his team raced to escape the enforcers. Footsteps pounded against the pavement, and spent casings clattered in their wake as the gunfire intensified. Sirens grew louder, signalling that enforcer reinforcements were closing in. Amid the panic, the team split up, using the fleeing crowd to their advantage. Pemulway led Vesper and Crow down a narrow alley, while Jai and Nyx darted in the opposite direction, drawing some of the enforcers away. The enforcers gave chase, their boots hammering the streets, weapons raised. The pursuit was fast and chaotic. Pemulway and his crew leaping over barricades, sliding under obstacles, weaving through panicked bodies. The narrow alleyways offered brief cover, but also trapped them as the enforcers closed in. Bullets sparked off a metal dumpster as Pemulway dove for cover, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. As they ran, Pemulway spotted a manhole cover leading into the underground tunnels beneath the city, a rarely patrolled network. He signalled to Vesper and Crow, and together they pried it open, disappearing into the darkness just as the enforcers rounded the corner. Dropping into the tunnels, they caught their breath, knowing they'd escaped for now, but the danger was far from over. Crow's chest heaved, his breaths coming in short, ragged bursts. Sweat dripped down his brow, but he pushed forward, legs pumping as he kept pace with the others.
We can't keep this up. There's too many, and we're running out of options.
Vesper gritting her teeth.
There's a tunnel up ahead. We get underground. We might lose them.
Pemulway leading the way.
Stay close. We reach the tunnels, and we vanish.
The city streets were a blur of motion and sound, chaos erupting at every turn. Pemulway pushed his team to the limit, instincts honed on survival. The enforcers were relentless, but so were they, and they knew these streets better than anyone. As they dropped into the tunnels, the darkness swallowed them, offering a brief reprieve from the hunt above. But as they caught their breath in the heavy silence, they knew it wasn't over. They had escaped the trap, but the real challenge still lay ahead. Vesper's shoulders rose and fell rapidly, each breath sharp and laboured. Her eyes were wide, focused, a bead of sweat tracing down her temple.
We made it, but just barely. Now what?
Pemulway's face tightened, his jaw set like stone. His eyes darkened, fixed on the path ahead with a hard, unyielding resolve.
We regroup, then we find out who betrayed us.
As the team regrouped in the underground tunnels, Crow suddenly noticed one of their encrypted communication devices was missing, stolen by someone in their ranks. The realization hit hard. One of their trusted allies had been compromised, feeding intel to the enforcers. The betrayal shook the team to its core, unraveling the trust they had relied on. Doubt and mistrust crept in just when unity was most crucial. Forced to confront the grim possibility that one of their own had turned traitor, tensions flared, accusations flew, and Pemulway had to act fast to prevent the group from fracturing under the weight of suspicion. Paranoia took hold, casting a dark cloud over their mission. As they prepared for their next move, they faced the unsettling truth. Not everyone in their circle could be trusted.
In the streets, where the night never ends, we move like whispers, unseen but always present. The city hums beneath our feet, a labyrinth of light, caught between the pulse of machines and the weight of history. Through the neon veil, we push forward, not for glory, but for the truth that slips through the cracks. Silence is heavy, but we carry with us, step by step, against the tide that's always rising. Every face has a story, every shadow is secret. We navigate through the chaos, hearts heavy but unbroken. This isn't about winning, it's about survival, about finding something real in the illusion we call progress. Through the neon veil, we push forward, not for glory, but for truth that slips through the cracks. Silence is heavy, but we carry with us, step by step, against the tide that's always rising. There are no heroes here, only those who remain. Past things like smoke, but we walk through it, eyes fixed on the horizon we've yet to see. Knowing the night won't last forever, even if we do. Through the neon veil, we push forward, silent but sure, with a rhythm beneath the chaos. And when the lights fade, we'll still be moving, still chasing the shadows, still rewriting the story.
We are the Story Brothers, and we invite you to join us on an extraordinary journey into the world of storytelling and AI. Together, we'll delve into an endless sea of stories, ideas, and topics, pushing the boundaries of imagination with the power of generative AI. Our mission? To see just how far we can take these tales. Intrigued? If you like what you hear, please share our adventure. Got requests or feedback? Don't be a stranger, we'd love to hear from you. Cheers to new beginnings and endless possibilities.